Hello, everyone on the YouTube front. My name is Asmogan, and today we're doing our second episode of Super Base World with our second guest. Hello, everyone on the YouTube
Oh,
front.
The 40K Empress.
Yeah, just sorry, there's a little
Yeah.
bit of echo on my end. Oh,
Hi guys.
yeah. So this is
How
the
are
40.
you?
Oh, sorry, my bad. This is the 40K Empress. She is a wonderful and talented content creator. She is also on Instagram for anyone who's curious. And is there any other social media you wanted to shout out for yourself?
You know, Twitter, Instagram is just 40K Empress. The channel is the same, 40K Empress. So yeah.
All right. So, how I usually conduct the Super Base World episodes, and granted, this is only the second one, so it's a general conversation and interview with an individual, hanging out, chatting, and having a nice, fun back and forth, learning about that person in relation to the 40K hobby, how long they've been into it, the armies they've gotten into, and also bringing up specific topics throughout the given stream. So, we're going to start off by we already did the introduction. Uh, so I guess we'll jump right into asking a little bit about your relation to the 40K hobby. How long have you been into 40K?
Well, like 3 years. I mean, it's not much, but since I saw the start of this project basically, and I wondered what are these big, huge guys that are so badass? And I did my research, and here we are. I mean, since then I tried to read everything that I can possibly read, catch up with the lore, catch up with what's happening. And I mean, fast forward till today, one of my viewers was so kind enough to give me 2 sets of custodies. So that is my tabletop experience. I mean, just painting the custodies basically. And that is it because, in Bulgaria, there's no really many places, if at all, that I can go and actually experience the tabletop myself. So I can focus on the lore, studying the lore and all of that. And the
Oh,
games, whatever I can do.
oh, really? I didn't know that there was a shortage of places in Bulgaria.
Oh yeah, they are. I heard that there's like official tournaments and maybe just one time we beat Russia, something like that. But other than that, I think that they're pretty limited clubs because the tabletop requires a huge space, a huge table, all those things. I know that people are into the hobby because they're buying GW models and they paint them, but where they go, I don't know really.
Well, I don't know. That is a bit of a surprise. But so you got into the hobby via the Astartes animation, and you said you did your research, so you've already done a lot more than a lot of WoCamera has. So credit to you for actually looking into the lore, doing your research. And in these 3 years, when it comes to like that research that you've done, what bit of the lore that you've learned has really like struck you the most? What's stood with you the most?
Well, everything that has to do with the Emperor and the Primarchs, I just love to read the books and analyze some of the hidden meanings that, well, may or may not be there. It's just that something that I love to do is, it's like basically literature. It's very hard for me to say that word. Analysis. I love to take a look at a book, for example, and if there's a lot to be understood but not on face value, that is kind of like my specialty. I love to study basically and to find out hidden stuff. And a lot of the times, actually, I was right in the very beginning when I started with 40K. When people are trying to catch me up as well and just throw me into the lore, they were suggesting a lot of books, a lot of stories. And since the very beginning, I actually guessed a lot that I'm about to read or about to happen in the 40K. So that is interesting. Yeah, basically everything that has to do with what the writer wanted to actually say. That's what I love to do.
That's awesome. So you'd say you're more into the lore than, let's say, like the tabletop game or the miniatures.
Yeah, I'm a lot more into the lore, but given time, I'm open to, of course, create more tabletop figures, although I doubt that I will have the opportunity to put them on the tabletop someday, but I am putting my best effort always in anything that I do. So the miniatures are going to be as good as possible. And yeah, I just love to paint them. It's a very huge stress relief for me. And I'm an artist in general, so painting is not something new, but it's something new when it comes to figures. So yeah, I'm getting I'm getting good. Yeah.
I did see a couple of I think they were YouTube shorts of yours that were you working on your miniature. It was a Custodes, and I did think you actually had pretty good brush control, and it seemed like you were pretty focused and doing well. So, you're only going to improve from wherever you're at, and that's always something I say to like newer painters or to anyone who's getting into the miniature side of it. Is wherever you may feel unconfident right now, wherever you feel like you're lacking right now, it's just a matter of practice. It's a matter of getting more time to do it, and yeah, I think that's the big bane of a lot of artists and a lot of miniature painters as well for getting better is finding the time, the spare time to paint the minis and work on that and practice it. But once you do that a lot more, you study a little bit more, you practice a bit more, you're gonna get a lot of confidence and yeah, I think you'll make some amazing stuff. So I really hope I really hope you don't stress out about like anything you might lack now because you're gonna be improve way better soon.
Yeah, and one thing that of course is a factor when I actually film how I paint is very uncomfortable. So I gotta figure out how to make the videos and not be extremely uncomfortable when I do it because I can't really sit. The camera's right here. I'm just like this. I'm like, what is happening? So yeah, I gotta figure that part out.
Yeah, I still have it. Like my setup when I do like stream or something to paint is I have a DSLR on this like I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit of a jury rigged tripod where I just hang it over my monitor, and it's like right here on my desk, and it's like the slightest shove of my desk will cause that tripod to fall over. So I basically have to sit here floating over my desk while I paint to film it. So the thing is, when I'm not filming to paint, I get a lot more done, and I'm a lot more efficient. But when I'm on camera, on top of being a rambler, I tend to ramble with like the audience and stuff. But on top of that, I have the stress of like, okay, if I bump my desk, I'm gonna cause a domino effect of all my stuff to get knocked over and possibly get paint all over my camera. So, uh,
Yeah.
the silent struggles of miniature painting and trying to film it at the same time.
Yeah, it is a challenge, but we are both are going to figure it out. I have a lot of lighting, the mic, so the only thing that's missing is a freaking miniature in my hand, you know.
Absolutely. Real quick before we continue, I'm just gonna shout out to people in the chat who've hopped in. Clinton Ian Van Tonder was here first. I think he's one of your folks, right?
Yeah, he's one of my Primarchs, as I call them. Yes.
Credit to you. Welcome, buddy. Zirkle, Nostalgia Vivek, Lady Runesong, who is our first guest on the show. Giga Akuma, Adam Wolford, Noble Shield, Uros Osium, Karnath Korn, and Nico. Oh, and Margaret Wood just jumped in as well. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you guys so much for showing up for the show. I know I appreciate it a lot, and I'm sure the 40K Empress also appreciates it.
So thank you so much, and Lady Song as well, who was also on my show. So that was pretty awesome time. We were discussing, of course, the amazing models, the newer models of the Sisters of Battle. Yeah.
She really is fun to talk to, isn't she?
Yeah, of course. Awesome.
All right. So we've talked a little bit about your experience getting into Warhammer. We've talked about what about it you love most, that being the lore. So I guess the next topic I want to jump into with you is when it comes to your experience as a woman in the hobby space. Now, in an ideal world, this wouldn't be something we even really think about, but unfortunately, given the current climate and given a lot of recent events, things like race, sex, all of that is being constantly brought up and questioned and judged quite painfully. And I would say that from my perspective, it's kind of happening a lot from the people claiming to advocate for these groups rather than people who are, hating on these groups. That's my experience with it. but I want to hear yours. What's your experience with with your gender and with the placate or the attempts at placating to your gender and people claiming to advocate for you? What's your experience with all that?
Well, I certainly don't need anyone to advocate for me. I'm just here loving 40K and that's it. I never felt that I'm somehow outside of the things that I love because I also love other universes. 40K is just my main one, but yeah, I never felt like I'm not supposed to be here because I'm a girl or something. So yeah, this to me is very inadequate.
Yeah, and it's also very, I find it comedic how oftentimes that's the case. Like most women who have gotten into 40K, like they don't have these like really bad experiences, these exponential like discriminations that a lot of like the woke hammer crowd, as I call them, constantly like claim. They act like the hobby space is extremely discriminatory, hateful, bigoted, all these other things. But truth be told, as far as my memory goes, I don't recall, like, I've seen women in hobby shops. I've seen them play tournaments. I've seen them get into 40K. Granted, they're a minority within the hobby space, but I don't think that's because women are ever rebuffed. And if they are, it's by like one or two douchebags online. It's not really a thing that happens in hobby stores. It's not a thing that happens in like get togethers or tournaments. It's just not something I've seen. And
Yeah.
like in your 3 years, like outside of like maybe some online interactions, have you ever had like an in person experience where someone was like, "Oh, you're a girl into 40K? That's not for you."
No, never. And besides, it's actually quite the opposite. I mean, guys, when they see that a girl is interested in painting and in anything that's like geeky, I mean, yeah, not only 40K, they're like, oh, wow, you do this? Amazing, marry me. Most of the times it's marry me rather than, oh my gosh, no, no, get away. This is not for you.
It's a very reverse of what they claim happens.
Yeah, it's most of the time just marriage proposals. I'm slapped with them like this.
Well, you have your pick of the flock, I guess.
I'm just ducking.
But yeah, but that's good to hear, and that tends to be like the my understanding of like not only women in the space, but any like minority group that gets into a hobby space. People don't think about it, right? Like we're all here to enjoy 40K. We're here to enjoy the grimdark, far future where there is only war. That is why we are here. We're not here because women. We're not here because man. We're not here because white. We're not here because black. We're not here because of anything like that. So would you agree or disagree with the sentiment that I have, which is the people who are making this a conversation, that are making this a debate, a fight, really, are the people who are running in and claiming that the discrimination exists, first of all, but also that it needs to be fixed, that there needs to be female space marines, there needs to be female custodians, that women, like there needs to be more women in the in like the universe and in the hobby space, like, and from my perspective, those people are the ones bringing the discrimination. What was your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
exactly the same. Yes, this is very artificial and it doesn't really exist. And even if, like you said, some guys are being pricks for some reason, those are like the few and far in between. Most people are not like that. They're not asses, so to speak. So yeah, this is extremely stupid and artificial. And if they never spoke about this, women in general will be just fine in the hobby or any other universe, really, and there will be no problem and nothing to speak of, basically, rather than just having fun and focusing on what really matters, which is the freaking universe that we love.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, by the way. I really appreciate that. So
It is the truth.
it is. It is. Absolutely is. Like it's definitely been weighing on my mind too, because it's a thing I constantly have to encounter, and I'm sure you've been encountering a lot more lately as well. A really good example of this kind of thing is like on Twitter seems to be like where a lot of the quote unquote advocacy for minority groups and stuff, the woke camera crowd seem to really like linger. And one thing I've noticed with that crowd as well, that through the facade of like advocating for women or defending women or things like that, they also end up having moments where they just kind of come all out and they showcase themselves to be the very thing that they say that they're trying to push out of the hobby. A great example is Bitshammer, who is the one who provided us the lovely quote on the title for the stream, filthy birther opinions. He's referred to several women who he's seen as disagreeing with him as birthers. Now, I've never heard such a horrendous statement in my entire life referring to a woman, especially not in a hobby store with any normal hobbyist for the last decade I've been in the hobby. So, when it comes to that, what are your thoughts on that kind of mindset? Do you think that the people who are doing the advocacy, it's all projection, that they are actually the ones with the opinions that they're supposedly fighting against, and they're just trying to hide it, and they're just trying to put a smoke screen up saying, "Oh, well, I'm defending women, so you can't question the fact that I'm calling them birthers when they don't agree with me."
Yeah, actually, I thought a lot about these things in general. I mean, it seems like the woke mindset is something that, only people that really have like weak characters in general are gravitating towards it. Because if you're a strong character, if you're someone that even if you went through a ton of discrimination somehow, I mean, I myself in Bulgaria actually did went to some sexism, from time to time from some people, but that doesn't mean that I totally fell apart and now I am just a Karen that is squeaking about everything. So if you're a strong character, you're just going to know your worth. You're going to have some kind of a self-esteem and self-respect, and you cannot just fall apart and fall to such type of logic. I mean, the lack of logic, basically. So I think that when the woke movement started, all kinds of weak characters like Beatshammer that have other issues, who knows what issues psychologically, saw that as a very good, easy, I don't know what. I mean, like, oh, I don't have any other self worth, so I'm going to invest my time and attention towards this, being a hypocrite and everything else, all the qualities that he's actually lacking as a person. So, yeah, it's like an scapegoat, the wokeness. It's just a huge hypocrite train or something. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the comment you just made about like the strength of character or in the weakness of character. That I find very poignant, and that's a big thing that I hate most about like the Wokehammer group is that most of them are like they're dudes, they're guys, they're male feminists and that sorts, and they're men that they're white men that are advocating for women and people of color. They act like those groups can't speak for themselves. They often speak for them. And again, like despite even if they didn't make such blatant like horrendous comments like filthy birther opinions, even if they didn't make comments like that, that in and of itself showcases this definitely this mindset of superiority. Again, it's like every everything that they hate, everything that they're pushing against, they they are that in substance. And I don't know if it's just they don't recognize that with themselves, or they genuinely believe that's just not true about themselves despite what their attitude showcases. But it's kind of frightening that you can live with such an ignorance of yourself. It's one thing to be ignorant of like other things, but of your own actions and of your own behaviors, I don't know how you don't just have a mirror. Like, how do you not like retrospectively think about your own actions? I don't understand it myself.
It's pretty scary because that means that this person or these people, they can't face themselves in the mirror. They are not ready to admit what what they have wrong within themselves. So they project all of that on the outside world. And we have seen actually this before, but just in other situations, like for example, someone that loves to cheat but then accuses everyone else of cheating. Something like that is very crazy. It's like a sociopath type of a behavior. It's really, really, yeah, inadequate again.
Yeah, it's narcissism. It's just they see themselves as the pinnacle of something or the peak of something. So when they're forced to face the realities of what they actually are, they'll do everything in their power not to shatter like the illusion about themselves that they have. Like, I'm this hyper intelligent, very educated person. They get caught saying something very basic, like life experience would teach someone is not true. They get called out for it, and then they do exactly what you said. They project. It's like, okay, no, 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 but you're wrong because of this, this, or this. It's like, oh no, well, you're stupid because of this. I'm actually right. And in the few occasions they actually say like, I'm sorry, it's always with like a million caveats. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm not actually wrong because this. It's like, well, you're not sorry then. So that's
Basically,
oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, they are gaslighting all the time. I mean, I have such people in my comment section as well. You're telling them one thing, they're telling you something else that you never mentioned before, and they start like spinning around like this. And whatever you say, it doesn't matter because they're just gonna say something else that is not even applicable to this conversation, but they're just trying to gaslight you every 5 seconds.
Yeah. I think the term for that too is if I'm not mistaken, it's tunnel vision. It's when you're like so convinced of something, doesn't matter what comes in, it's like this is the path. But
This is the way. This is the way.
this is the way.
This
Exactly.
is the way, but it's not. But it's not. No, no, no. Turn around.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a heck of a ride, but I do want to kind of jump off that and ask, to try and focus on the positive a little bit here. Outside of like interacting with those groups, what would you say your experience personally with just like guys you've spoken about, like just personal conversations, hangouts, and stuff when it comes to 40K, when it comes to the hobby space? How have the men you've encountered, or not just the men, but like anybody you've encountered in the space, kind of positively, boosted you up and not made you think about like your sex or anything, but just made you feel part of the group?
Oh, actually, it's so hard to recall anything that is not perfectly inclusive to me. I mean, everything was pretty awesome. I mean, all the guys that I know, they just talk to me like usual, like I'm a person. So, yeah, I mean,
Crazy.
everything's perfectly fine. Yeah, seamless. I would say seamless. Yeah, it's the word.
That's actually very good. And yeah, like the fact that you've had so many that, you didn't have like a specific one you came to mind, it's not particularly special. It's like your general experience is positive.
Absolutely, yeah. The first thing on my mind is absolutely positive. Yeah.
That's good to hear. So I'm gonna get. Well, we're already hitting topic four. So I'm gonna hit on topic four, which is your future plans for the hobby. What are you gonna do going forward? Whether it's content creation, like what are you doing that wise, or what are your plans? Just outside. Like are you like you mentioned that there's a lack of hobby shops or like hangout spots for 40K in Bulgaria. Maybe you have plans to go to a con elsewhere, or just try and figure out something within Bulgaria. But yeah, while we get into that, chat, prepare some questions for the lovely lady.
Thank you. Yes, questions. So I will try to find some place that people do gather. It's probably going to be one place in the whole city. We'll see. But I will try that at least, see it live and all of that. There's a Comic Con coming right now in the summer, but it's not going to be anything Warhammer related. Just going to be a lot of anime and cosplay, all of that. So nothing there for Warhammer. I do plan to make, well, a lot of content that is going to be against the woke movement because this, finally hit 40K and we got to push back as much as possible. So I will focus on that for now. There's some other things that I like to do, like some reactions if the creators want me to do that. Like, for example, the new warrior tier, it's super awesome. Angron, 2 hours of a story about him. and they do want me to react to that. So whatever comes, whatever's most important, I cannot say, of course, in the long run because we don't even know what's going to happen with the Amazon show and all of that. But I'm going to cover everything that I can possibly do. And if I can afford anything, I mean, some miniatures, maybe I can get like fan 3D printed miniatures and paint something else than Custodes further down the line. But here, all the GW, whatever it is, it's double the money. So it's, yeah, our money are not that valuable. So for me, it's even yeah, a lot worse to buy something from GW. Is even less affordable than you can imagine. So yeah, if anyone wants to send me figures, I'll paint them basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have like a PO box, or I don't know if they? I'm assuming Bulgaria has like an equivalent to that.
No, through Amazon, just through Amazon, basically.
Okay,
Yeah, that is how I got the previous custody packs through Amazon.
gotcha. Nico in the chat asks, for the keepers, what Primarch would you cosplay as?
The Emperor? No, that's not a Primarch. But yeah, my first thought is always the Emperor. But what Primarch I will cosplay as? Well, I don't know, Sanguinius, maybe. I love Sanguinius. Maybe I'm going to fit more in that.
I mean, like, I would be interested to see you dye your hair blonde for that, but going based on your
Oh boy,
current going based on your current hair
it's
color,
going to be so bad for the hair. I cannot tell you.
I
I
bet
gotta find a way.
I had to bleach my hair one time for because I used to do stage acting when I was in high school, and one of the performances I did, they're like, okay, like this character's blonde. There was Benedict from one of the Shakespeare plays, and they're like, all right, you got to bleach your hair. I'm like, what is that? They're like, just go to a hair salon and we're sorry. And it burnt, so they burnt my scalp. I was like, ow. I never want to do
Yeah,
that
that
again.
is how it goes. That is how it usually goes. I actually did. I had my hair dyed black. I mean, I do that myself. To cosplay Zatanna, the DC character. I made a few tons of pictures, and then I tried to go back to red. It was extremely hard. So yeah, but I figured that out. So yeah, the hardest color to get out of your hair is black, basically.
I've never dyed my hair black, so I'll trust you on that one. I can imagine though, like that's like the darkest color, so I can imagine it stains the most as well.
Oh
Um,
yeah, so many things before it just yeah, yeah. You don't need to know. I fixed it. That's the most important thing.
Lady Runeson asks, are there any other armies you collect or want to collect, or custodies all the way?
Well, Custodes really are my favorite. But now in the second pack, it's a damn it. I have also. I mean, I want to say that I also have Sisters of Silence in that pack. So I will have that when I start doing it. But yeah, other than that, uh, probably Blood Angels. Yeah, probably Blood Angels. That would be very cool. Hmm.
You'll have fun painting them.
Yeah, they are all red. There's a lot of things black. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be cool. I have a huge red angel from McFarlane. That's one of my action figures.
Oh, nice. I still haven't gotten into like the Joy Toy, the McFarlane stuff. A lot of like, which is weird because a lot of my friends have, and they even have like for the Funko Pop thing. But I just do like straight minis, so I don't know how I would do with those. The McFarlane ones, are those the ones where you can get like the non-painted ones that you can paint yourself?
Yeah, I have one like this, so I can paint him gold, so it can fit my own chapter gold on Astartes. And I have, like I said, one Blood Angel and one. Well, he's an Ultramarine, but he's from like a special forces. I forgot how they was called. That was a gift. And I have one Joy Toy that's Imperial Fist, which is also a gift. So if I ever get my own, I will probably get a Blood Angel and some Ultramarine, and then maybe I don't know. I mean, I like all the chapters in their own way, but yeah, the wolves are pretty cool as well. If you ask me, I want to get all the primars, but they're so expensive that um, I probably will not eat for 3 years to get those. Yeah.
I've been in the hobby 10 years. That's an early goal, I think, for a lot of people when they first get into the miniatures, especially if they're were first a fan of the lore, is doing the Primarch miniatures. And the first like wake up call to like how much it truly is to invest in this hobby is when you look at the price tags. They've always been ridiculous, but they've been getting worse. Like,
Yeah.
oh god, I remember when I first looked up the Forge World models for the Primarchs for the Horus Heresy. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get all of them. It's like, they must be like $100 a piece, but I'll be able to afford that if I just save up and I scrounge for like a full year. No, they're like 225, 235. I'm like, that's a mortgage payment.
It's a lot, yeah, but I will try to find though. I mean, one of my dreams is to get a big, huge statue of the emperor and paint it. So that's like my next goal, a huge badass statue of the emperor. Somehow I gotta find that.
So a big one, as in like a collectible statue, or are we talking like a 6 foot, seven
Like
foot?
like
Okay,
this
okay.
big, I mean 30, 40 centimeters. I can only talk in centimeters, yeah.
I'm American. We're dumb. We're stuck in imperialism, so I don't know what that translates to. But
This big, this big.
we're going with this
This,
big. This is universal.
yeah, half wait, okay, not half my body big, but this big, almost half my body big. Yeah.
Let's see. Marlena, who is a lovely friend of the channel, love her to death. How you doing, Marlena? She asked, sorry to join late, what's 40k Empress's favorite Xenos faction?
The Eldar.
The Eldar.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're cool.
the Craftworld Eldar, or the Drakari, or the Harlequins?
The craft world Eldar, because I don't like evil Drakari, not even a little bit. And the Harlequins are like clowns. I don't like clowns.
Fair
So yeah,
enough.
the more sophisticated, more warrior-like, cooler Eldar, you can say. I mean, I like the Necrons as well, but the Eldar, they still have a bit more reason to them in a way. So yeah, the Eldar.
Yeah, the nobility and the elegance of the Craftworld Eldar. I can respect
Yeah.
that one. I always ask for that clarification because usually when people say their favorite is the Drakari, that's usually a red flag for me. It's like, okay, do you need therapy?
Yeah, I mean, I usually,
Hmm.
what was the funny thing when I was growing up and I started hearing these expressions like favorite villain and this and that is a favorite villain. I'm like, why do people have favorite villains? I don't understand this. I mean, they're bad people. And then, I got that it's about the character, how it's written, whether they have depth or not. But before that, when I was little, I was like, hey, that's bad character, okay?
You're not allowed to like them. They're mean.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Uh, oh. Havoc asks, you did answer this question earlier, but they're asking anyway. Havoc asks, I might have missed Empress saying it before. How did you get into Warhammer 40k? And is there much of the tabletop game itself around you, or is it largely the lore, painting, and video games for you?
Answer this again then. Yeah, so first time with the Astartes project, and I saw that Siama Pedersen masterpiece. Then about the tabletop, I don't have anywhere to go, but I will research if there is such a place still. But yeah, basically, it's just a very poor scene in Bulgaria when it comes to these things. So yeah, even if I want to, it's going to be extremely hard for me to do that physically, literally. And there is no actual places where people can gather in their apartments because all the apartments are so small that one tabletop table is like half of the living room basically. So that's not gonna happen.
Actually, I have a question for you that I just thought. It kind of circles back a little ways to our second, third topic actually. But uh, when you covered the Bits Hammer video like I did, if I recall, and I really loved your coverage. By the way, like I listened to the whole thing while I was at work, and it was very fun to listen to somebody else break down that video. You went further than I did with it, which credit to you. You have way more patience than I do. But
Thank you. Well, he showed one of my videos, so he deserved that.
he paid the price. Um, so with that video that you encountered with Bits, do you think? How do I phrase this? Do you think that we as content creators, when it comes to like responding to these folks, do you think we should call out those videos like you and I did, or do you think in general the rule should be ignore unless it's a particularly egregious case?
Yeah, that is a good question because I don't actually want to give him the attention. It's kind of like what he actually wants, probably.
Yeah,
But in the same time, if we don't shed a light on such people, then we are not really doing our jobs if we want to fight against this type of a mindset. Because if our voices are not the louder voices, then the other people's voices are going to be the louder voices. And we do know that evil never sleeps. So if you're not as persistent, we kind of lose. We just fall back into the shadows. So it's just two sides, just two sides of the blade. Basically, it's a double-edged sword. But for me, it's kind of like more important to really stand against openly certain people or certain things that are really harmful for people, for other people, and in this case, to the hobby. So yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's generally my mindset as well. Is you need to call it out if you avoid it too much or you don't. Yeah, because it is a balancing game between do I give them the attention that they clearly want, or do I, in spite of that, cover it, say no, I'm calling you out. I'm gonna make you look like a fool. I will say this: you were nicer than I was in your coverage. I was way meaner.
Yeah, I know actually. But on the other hand, I do enjoy that you are a bit more sharp. So, yeah, I actually love that because you have to have a lot of balls. Puppies, sorry for that. So, yeah, you gotta have a lot of balls for saying a lot of things that you did say that you are so direct. I really appreciate that. I also try to be direct. It's just that I try to not be as, you know, well, yeah, not that sharp, but sometimes I really go off rails myself. But yeah, I kind of like to be a bit more polite until the very end when I really lose it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't, but yeah, but I appreciate your approach a lot.
Well, thank you. I'm an asshole. That's how I've always put it. I've grown up with having to argue with people quite a lot, and I've learned that beating around the bush or being too nice about it ends up leading to a lot of confusion or kind of a mixed tone. Sometimes people really need, and in my opinion, people need it most these days, is bluntness, directness, and yeah, kind of a jagged edge. Being nice about it is a good thing to do. I think I respect people who can be nicer than me and can be more respectful because oftentimes it's more conducive to an actual conversation. I'm not very good with that these days unless it's someone I actually know is willing to have one. When it comes to people like Bits, when it comes to Wokehammer, I've learned that they don't want a conversation. They pretend to, they put on the airs of conversation. A good example is like Radholm, if you know of that guy and his debate with Arch. He put on the airs of someone who wanted to debate. But if you actually watched the debate in question, despite the fact that he effectively agreed with gatekeeping, he played the semantical game of, well, my gatekeeping is not called gatekeeping, therefore it's okay. That I find that those types of people, I don't have enough respect or enough lingering maturity with that because I find that immature. It's like, okay, if you're gonna act like that, if you're not gonna be willing to listen, if you're not gonna at least be willing to give and take, it's not a conversation, it's not a debate. You're just an ideologue. Like you have tunnel vision, you have this thing that you're like, I'm correct, no one else is right. Your idea of a debate is simply showing I'm right to everybody and that they're wrong. That's your idea of a debate. It's not about coming to a middle ground. It's not coming to a consensus. It's I'm the consensus. You're just wrong until you agree with me. I hate that. So that's why I'm the asshole that I am.
Well, I don't think that you're really an asshole. I can't even say that. But both approaches are good. I mean, I'm trying to balance it somehow. You're trying to be a bit more sharp. I'm trying to be a bit more strict, but not that sharp, but still say it like it is. So whatever you can do, really, it's still very helpful. And if a person is a strong character, I mean, if Bits was a strong character, he would actually not take offense to this. He will be like, yeah, that's the case, because there's a lot of times where you are saying something, let's say, to your friend that is true. It's not good, because he did something that's not good. But if he is a person, if he is a man of his word, or a woman of her word, you know what I mean, they will be like, yeah, you're correct, I'm wrong, and I should try to be better from now on. And that's it. But because all of these woke people are so crazy, all they hear is na 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 na, and that's it, basically. And if you don't like speak the words like they are, I mean, I kind of feel like sometimes maybe that can get through them to a certain extent, maybe. But if it doesn't, it's still the best thing that can possibly get through them anyway. So yeah, I appreciate your approach, and I see that it could be very useful because a lot of people are really around the bush, like too much. Yeah, too much, which is also not very helpful.
Yeah. And again, thank you for that. Um, and again, I appreciate your approach as well. For anyone who hasn't seen the 40K Empress's coverage of Hammer's video, and you've seen mine, definitely see hers. It's two sides of a similar coin of the criticism, and she has a lot of very good points throughout it. It's worth watching all the way through.
Yeah, I analyzed the crap out of of what he said. Yeah, basically. Although he's so slow in the way that he talks that sometimes it's really hard to follow his train of thought. I'm like, what?
I know, right? Like that is something I've noticed consistently throughout, like particularly recently, because there was another like big drama. I don't know if you heard about it. It's on YouTube, but Wendigoon got like called out by this channel called In Praise of Shadows. It's YouTube drama, so I can't blame you if you don't know about it. I know about it because my recommendeds are screwed up right now. But
I don't. Yeah, you can tell me about it.
the I'll give you the gist because it's YouTube drama. But the gist is this hyper leftist, similar to like the Wokehammer crowd, criticized like Wendigoon and made like a 3-hour video, and basically doing guilt by association and calling him a fascist bootlicker because he was friends with people that he doesn't like. And it's a horrendous video. But in that video, he sounds like Bits does. He talks that same way, that slow, like that kind of talk. They all sound like that, and I don't know why that is. Like, I don't even know if I can ask you like why you think that. I don't even know if there's an answer to it. It just seems like a weird, funny coincidence that they all talk like this emotionally devoid, almost stoned like way, like very nasally. I don't know what that is.
Because they have similar ways of thinking. Maybe that's also connected to their speech pattern or just way of expressing themselves. I mean, all things are connected anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be either. Like it's just it is like a creepy like coincidence though. I don't know. I guess it really just come from like the crowds they hang out with. I think they think that sounds intelligent as well. Like that slow, like almost pompous way of talking. I think that.
Sophisticated, very sophisticated.
Oh yeah.
The pipe is missing in the monocle, Only
Yeah.
that is missing.
Yeah, like it's I don't know. It is a funny thing I've noticed amongst that crowd is just the way they talk. Like you and I, we're talking very casually. Like we have ups and downs with our energy. We laugh back and forth. We have changes in our inflection of how we speak. They speak the exact same way for an hour and a half video that they edited. For an hour and a half, that same like pompous, arrogant, like I'm hot shit kind of way of talking.
It's almost like they're possessed by the warp spirits, you know?
Zeech is having a field day.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to make a joke out of these people. Okay, play. Press the play button. Damn it, that's a bad show. Another show, play. Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Nico in the chat says for both. It's a question for both of us. What would be your preferred? Okay, wow, that's a deep one. What would your preferred way to die in 40K be?
Well, on the battlefield as a warrior. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my go-to. I mean, there are like the 0.0000001% of the human population that die on vacation worlds. Old. Everybody else doesn't. Uh,
Yeah.
for for me, like if I could like also pick the scenario, but if I could pick the scenario, it would be on the battlefield in a dreadnought. If I could live that long and fight that long. But if we're saying like as a human being, like not being put in a more ideal scenario, I'd say on a battlefield against either orcs or corn berserkers, because in either case they're just gonna kill you. Their Nurgle will disease you and make you rot and probably raise you as a zombie. Slanesh will not kill you and will keep you borderline alive, suffering every form of suffering possible. Pretty horrible way to go, especially if it's the Drakari's methods of turning people into furniture.
The fastest way, please. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll go with like again orcs. They'll crush your skull in. Corn berserkers, they'll chainsaw you apart very quick. Hell, the Necrons will deatomize you. I used to think that was pretty quick based on the descriptions of the lore, but the Pariah animation that came out showed it. It does seem like they feel a little bit of pain before they go, but it looks pretty quick. Everybody else, no, no, I'm good. Quick death.
Yeah, but yeah, otherwise, if you're a warrior, definitely on the battlefield, at least you're going to be fighting, doing something productive.
Oh, Karn made a point. Karn made a point about our previous statements about like the way like the Wokehammer talk. He says it's low testosterone that makes you speak like that. Is it? I don't. I heard plenty of women that sound like very fluent with their speak and like. I guess the argument is because it's guys with low testosterone that they sound that kind of like drawn and stuff. That I might agree with that, but I don't know. I've heard plenty of women have a lot more inflection than these guys do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's something that is psychological, because when you don't have a lot of self-esteem, when you don't feel yourself, basically, you don't have the energy to express yourself through speech. So, like for example, when you first started YouTube or something like that, we all come out as some kind of a timid little children. I mean, that's how I was. So at the beginning, it's like meh, 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 and then it's more like this. And that is something that happens with time. So I do think that is how you feel on the inside is determining factor.
Absolutely. All right. So I think. Let me think for a second. Make sure I'm not missing any questions I might have forgot to ask. I asked all my broad ones. Do you have any questions for me or topics you'd like to bring up at all?
Oh yeah, I was thinking about yeah, I was going to tell you that. So with the latest models of Sisters of Battle, I showed the models to one of my friends, and he was like, is this a new Space Marine model? And I'm like, no, these are the Sisters of Battle. And he's like, what? Looks like a man. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Thank you. So I just wanted to test this on one of my friends to see how he will react if he sees the new models. And really, he thought that there were guys and space marines. I mean, he's not that much into Warhammer. He knows from me different things, but those women look like guys to him. So there you go.
Yeah, one thing, this is not really a defense of GW, but Games Workshop have always struggled with faces. I don't know, like the weird thing with that is they've had like a dozen different like modelers and artists come in over the years. Like back in the 80s it was a lot more excusable because they were using clay molds. So it was quite literally just shaping with clay, putting the mold around it, and then making like all of the pewter models and then the metal models. There was a lot more of an excuse for the details to be a little rougher back then. And when you keep that in mind, the models looked actually pretty good. With the newer models, it's all computer designed. Like the same method you use to make CG models for animations, you use to make models for 3D printing, and then eventually for injection molding, which is what they do. And yeah, I'm it start it's it, I would say the most recent ones for sure. It's intentional, like with the masculine features and the, for to put it a blunt way, a very butch kind of look. I my guess is my guess is either this is the most charitable interpretation, mind you. I don't think this is the case, but the most charitable interpretation is that they're just copy and pasting like scans of the old faces and making slight adjustments, thinking that's all they need to do, and they're just being lazy. But especially given the recent woke stuff, and we know for the last couple of years that's been in the back lines of their work. I'd say that they're just doing what a lot of video game companies are doing right now, which is they're really robbing women of femininity, because it's this weird woke mentality that doesn't make any sense to me at all. But it's this idea that women can only be like tough and badass if they are basically men with boobs.
Horrible. I mean, they forgot everything that came before 2016. I mean, what we had in TV shows and movies, I guess, how to write a very good female character and what makes a woman badass and all of those things. They totally forgot about that. And of course, women always wanted to look unattractive, right? Like always. Jesus. I mean, even Xena wasn't uh, with that kind of a look. I mean, even she was feminine when she needed to be, especially in some episodes. Anyway, that's a long topic. I'm going to be talking about Xena for 3 hours, so yeah.
My first celebrity crush was actually on Lucy Lawless, who is the actress who plays Xena. That's because I watched Xena growing up. Uh, so,
Oh boy.
for
Oh
first
boy.
celebrity crush.
Oh, I'm so happy about that. Yeah. And she was the number one heroine of my childhood as well. So I still hold her at like the highest pedestal in terms of female characters and how they're supposed to be written. I mean, strong female characters that are not on the nose. They have a very long, very interesting, very deep backstory that makes their character extremely layered, and how that is super compelling and interesting.
Oh
And
yeah.
nothing like the today's crap where everyone are Mary Sues that just run around and kill everything somehow because they just can.
Oh yeah. Look at the major contrasts too. If you like using Xena as a specific example with like any of the modern women. Xena started out as a villain in like the Hercules show. That's where I first saw her. And in that she was
Yeah.
a warlord. She was trying to conquer places, she was killing people, she was leading armies, and then she had a rebound from her mistakes and tried to fix them. And the whole first like couple seasons of Xena Warrior Princess is her coming to terms with like, okay, I made mistakes and I need to redeem them. And she never hated on the people. Like the very first episode of the show, she goes back home, like her hometown, to her mother, and her own people throw rocks at her. They are yelling at her. They hate her, and she doesn't like. If that was written in the modern day, not only would she not look as beautiful as she did, she would like everyone would mistreat her, but not on the basis of her like murdering people and leading armies and doing horrible things. They would hate her because she's a woman who stepped out of line and got too strong, and then her attitude would be, "Well, you just don't respect me for who I am. Like I'm a strong woman. I'm strong." Like it would it. I'm so happy that show was made in the '90s. I'm so happy it came out when it did. I'm horrified at the idea that they ever remake that show in the modern day.
Oh yes, they wanted to ruin it by making Xena like Katniss Everdeen, and that was like around 2013. There was actually a writer, but thankfully that all fell through. It didn't happen because they were already on the path of totally ruining Xena and what she stands for and everything that she is. So yeah, but you bring an amazing point that everyone threw rocks at Xena because she was a horrible person to them, and not because she was a woman. That was not even a thing. It's not even mentioned. She was just a warlord like everyone else that ever terrorized them, basically.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that is how it should be. Judge a person by his character, what he did or she did, and that is it. Whether they're a man or a woman comes second always.
Yeah, it's amazing we had that down in society in the '90s, and now we're going backwards as opposed to forwards with that mentality. I definitely miss the '90s and early 2000s because that's for me like in like terms of media, that's when we had culturally the most naturally diverse and also the most fun with media. And when it came to like representation and stuff, it was all natural. It's like, okay, Xena, it's a woman-led show, was a spin-off of Hercules, but it was amazing. People loved it, and they did it for like 7+ seasons. And hardly throughout it did anyone give a damn about, Xena's gender. It came up maybe a couple of times, but most of the show, she was judged on her actions. She was judged on her choices. And thankfully, through the course of her show, it was mostly redeeming actions first couple seasons and then truly heroic ones towards the last few seasons of the show. That
Actually,
is
it was redeeming to the very end. That was kind of the point of the end, which was
well
very
no,
unfortunate.
well, it's not that she stopped having to redeem herself, but she also started doing like truly heroic actions towards the end. Like I'm trying to remember the specific season, but the couple of episodes where they went into like Norse mythology almost, like that kind of
Yeah,
region, and then
they did. Yes.
yeah, she did like if I recall correctly, there was like a Grendel type situation from
Yeah.
like the Beowulf story that she dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
That
Exactly.
for me is like a very good example of when Xena was judged just as a hero after the fact. Like unless I'm recalling incorrectly, everybody was celebrated her victories in those given episodes. I don't recall her like anybody like giving her crap for her past choices in that given set of episodes. I could be wrong though.
You want to refresh your memory a bit. So basically, throughout the show, there were several episodes where they really dealt with her past mistakes and they really dealt with her redeeming herself and certain things that she did do that were really really bad. But throughout most of all of the seasons, she actually did separate things that were never connected to her past. So the past episodes were actually fewer than those that she's just a hero and she's doing good things. I mean, episodes that are with Caesar have to do with her past. Episodes that are when she was the warrior, a destroyer of nations, and all of that. But those are really not the majority of the episodes. And at the end, there was the hugest, the biggest redeeming thing that she ever did when she died. So yeah.
Fair enough. Did this show? This is definitely where my memory might be failing. But there was, I know, like heaven and hell, like angel versus demons arc that happened. Was that the end of the show, or was that one of the mid seasons?
Season 5. Season 5 was mostly when that happened, and she had the power to kill gods at one point, given to her by the god of Eli, who was like an archetype of Jesus. but after the fact that she wanted to kill the Archangel Michael, that God took that power away from her. So there was one super cool episode where she had to kill Caligula, who became a god through sucking Aphrodite's powers, and she couldn't kill him. She didn't have the power, so she tricked him to kill him for him to kill himself. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
For anyone watching this who have not seen this show and are confused, go check it out. I'm not going to elaborate more than I have. It's a great show. If you're younger, like let's say like 18, 17, and you haven't grown up with like 90s, I'll call it 90s charm, where especially in the early seasons of Xena, where this, how do I put this, cheap props, cheap sets, lots of field shots. Shows back then were very limited in budget. Like they don't have Amazon and like HBO budget that we think of now for like Game of Thrones and stuff. Keep in mind that that was special. Everybody else had like a very limited budget for TV shows, very limited resources. So the early seasons for that stuff, if you can look past it, which to be fair, it's literally just like the props and like the sound effects and stuff. But everything else is just amazing. The charm, the practical effects that they do, it's so much fun. Like you will not find a more fun show than Xena Warrior Princess, and if you also watch it in tandem with the Hercules show, you're gonna have a blast. Like yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Hercules, the legendary journeys, yes, but we got Xena and Hercules in the 2000s. So I grew up with Xena, but it was in the 2000s. We never got
Oh, it
any
was
show on
90s.
time in general. So
Oh, you mean in Bulgaria?
yeah, in Bulgaria we got it way, way later after the show was finished in America, because the show was finished in 2001. Yes, that was the
Yeah.
last sixth season. Hercules was finished before that, and there was a couple of episodes where they really went to each other's episodes,
Mm.
crossovers that were pretty freaking amazing. There's some that were not, but yeah, you described the show really well. But I want to say to all the teenagers out there, if they're watching that, really, if you go past all the special effects, yeah, that are very old, it doesn't really matter, because the show has an amazing substance, amazing lines, amazing acting. Everything is just so deep. You can literally like watch an episode a few times and discover something else that's really meaningful. So that is something that you cannot find in today's shows. Mostly today's shows are just like fast food. You consume it, then it's over. You get the rush at the beginning, but then it's like poof, like you almost forgot that you have seen it. Whereas Xena is so memorable and so amazing, it's gonna stay like right here forever with you, basically.
Oh, absolutely. Like shows back then actually had to be substantive and good because they couldn't rely on special effects. They couldn't rely on, the computer to do all the show for them, like a lot of shows and actors do nowadays. So that's why, again, I'll call it 90s charm. If you're younger, I know a lot of like the younger generation are really used to like all the jangling keys of the special effects and like high budget and all that. Look past that, because what is past that is better than anything you've seen in the last 10 to 20 years, really. Like exactly, 40 Campers put it exactly right. The dialogue, the interactions, the character arcs, the storylines per episode to episode. The show is extremely dynamic, great characters, great lessons in some of the episodes. You'll fall in love and you'll never forget it. You might be like me, where you grew up with it and then you haven't seen it for like 20 years, so you don't remember every detail, but you will remember how you felt about it, and you will remember specific moments that will stick with you forever.
Yeah, I just have a bit more. I mean, I rewatched the episode so many times, so I almost know some of the episodes, like to say certain lines and all of those things. Yeah, I'm a huge fan.
All right, that does. What a way to end the show, though. That was kind of fun, though. But that does bring us to the end of today's show. Thank you so much to the 40K Empress for coming on. Again, you can find her YouTube channel linked right in the description. She's also on Instagram and a couple other places, I think. So make sure you follow her, check her out. She's got an amazing video on Bits's horrible video.
Amazing video. This is horrible video.
make gold out of shit is what she did. She made a very great video. So go check that out. Anyway, that's it from us. Have a good one, folks.
Thank you to everyone that watched. Thank you, guys. Thank you. We appreciate it. Bye bye.